Her father was sick. Her parents were poor. She left for the city with one dream, to make them proud. But what she didn't know was that the woman who promised to help her was secretly involved in trafficking young girls. When she refused to sell her body, she was thrown out, homeless and hopeless. She wandered the streets, hawking water just to survive. Then one day deep in the bush, she stumbled upon a dying man, shot and left for dead by gunmen. What she didn't realize was that this man was a billionaire, and saving his life would completely change her own. You don't want to miss this powerful, emotional, and life-changing story filled with lessons that will stay with you. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. Let's dive into this unforgettable journey. And if you're just tuning into this channel, please subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and don't forget to give this story a thumbs up if it touches your heart. The morning sun hadn't even risen, yet Veronica was already on the construction site, her hands white with cement, her back soaked in sweat. She was the only woman among dozens of men, yet she outworked all of them. Her headscarf was tied tight, her palms blistered, her jeans torn at the knees. But she didn't care. She couldn't afford to. She was working to keep her father alive. Veronica was just 22, but life had aged her spirit. Her father, Panamdi, once a proud school teacher, now lay bedridden in their tiny mud home in Oji River, Enugu State. A strange illness had struck him 2 years ago. Since then, he had wasted away, his body frail and voice weak. Her mother, Mama Veronica, stayed by his side day and night, washing him, feeding him, praying for a miracle. That miracle never came. So Veronica became the miracle they prayed for. She had dropped out of school, picked up a shovel, and joined a construction crew. While other girls her age chased weddings and selfies, Veronica was mixing sand and cement, lifting blocks heavier than her dreams. "Wouldn't this fine girl they do for sight?" one of the workers asked mockingly. "No man, she be oh," another laughed. "Her strength passed my own." But Veronica paid them no mind. Every sweat drop was for Papa. Every blister, a sacrifice. And every naira she earned went straight to buying medicine and food. That afternoon, as the sun scorched the red soil beneath their feet, a black SUV pulled up beside the site. Its tires kicked up a cloud of dust, drawing everyone's attention. Out stepped a woman in lace, gold jewelry clinking with every step. Her sunglasses screamed Lagos money. Her perfume followed her like a trail of power. "Madam P," the workers murmured. Veronica glanced up, her hand still gripping a bucket of cement. Madam P tilted her head, puzzled. "Is that a girl?" She walked over, her high heels sinking slightly into the sand. "You, what's your name?" Veronica dropped the bucket and wiped her face with the hem of her shirt. "Veronica, Ma. You're a woman and you do this kind of work?" "Yes, Ma." Madam P stared at her for a long moment. "You're strong, I like that. And you're very beautiful, even covered in cement." Veronica smiled shyly. "Thank you, Ma. What would you say if I told you I could change your life?" Veronica blinked. "Change my life, Ma?" "I live in Lagos. I run businesses. I help girls like you. Come with me. I'll give you a job 10 times better than this. You won't need to carry blocks again." Veronica's hands trembled slightly. She had never heard such words. "You mean it?" Madam P nodded. "I see potential in you." That night, Veronica could barely contain her excitement. She rushed home, her face beaming. Her mother was feeding Painamdi pap when she burst in. "Mama, Papa, Madam P said she'll take me to Lagos." Her mother dropped the spoon. "Lagos?" "She said she'll give me a better job, more money, no more block carrying. She said she sees potential in me." Her father coughed weakly. "Veronica, be careful. She's from our village, Papa. Madam P, she helps people. I have to try. For you, for Mama." That night, they didn't sleep. Mama Veronica sat on the floor crying silently. Her only child, her backbone, going to the city. Papa called Veronica close and placed a shaky hand on her head. "My daughter, may you never be disgraced. May the city favor you. May you return greater than you went." Veronica nodded, holding back tears. "I'll make you proud." The next morning, the entire compound watched as Madam P's SUV arrived. Veronica hugged her father tightly. "I'll come back with money for your treatment," she whispered. Her mother held her, weeping into her shoulder. Don't let the city change your heart. Veronica got in the car. As the SUV pulled away, she looked out the window and saw her parents getting smaller and smaller. She didn't know it yet, but the city wasn't welcoming her with open arms. It was preparing to break her. The drive to Lagos was long and hot, but Veronica barely noticed. Her eyes were glued to the windows. She had never left Enugu State before. Every town they passed, every billboard, every tall building felt like a step into a new world. A better world. Madam P didn't talk much. She mostly scrolled through her phone and made short, sharp business calls. No, transfer it now. I don't do excuses, she barked into the phone. Veronica sat quietly beside her, trying not to fidget, her bag of clothes tucked beneath her feet. When they finally crossed into Lagos, it was like stepping into a dream. Towering buildings scraped the sky. The roads were white and bustling. Traffic was chaotic but alive. Everywhere, people seemed in a hurry, chasing something. It was nothing like the dusty village of OG River. Veronica's heart fluttered with hope. Maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change forever. Madam P's car turned into a gated estate in Lekki. It was more beautiful than anything Veronica had ever seen. High walls, electric gates, sparkling pavements, and trimmed lawns. They pulled into a driveway and stopped in front of a large duplex painted ivory white with flower beds that looked like they belonged in a movie. Madam P's driver opened the door and Veronica stepped out, clutching her small bag. "Welcome to your new life," Madam P said, smiling. Inside the house, it was like entering a palace. Marble tiles, huge chandeliers, sofas so soft they swallowed you when you sat. Veronica stood still, her eyes wide, afraid to even touch anything. "You'll be staying here with me for now," Madam P said, handing her a towel. "Go freshen up. There's food in the fridge." Veronica couldn't believe her ears. She showered in a bathroom with hot water. She ate rice with chicken, not the bony village kind, but fat, juicy chicken legs. That night, she slept on a real mattress with clean sheets. No mosquitoes, no bucket of water by the bed. She cried silently, not tears of sadness, but tears of hope. The next day, she woke early, dressed neatly, and waited for Madam P, but no mention of work came. Instead, Madam P told her to relax. "Enjoy yourself. You've been working too hard all your life. Let Lagos pamper you a little." Veronica nodded, unsure but grateful. One day passed, then two, then four, a week. No work, no explanation. She watched TV, scrolled through the internet, and helped clean the house here and there. But she grew restless. Each day she delayed was another day her father wasn't getting treatment. One evening she found the courage to ask, "Ma, please, when will I start the job you promised me?" Madam P smiled from her spot on the couch, sipping red wine. "Tonight," Veronica blinked. "Tonight? Yes, your first assignment will come this evening. Be ready." Veronica bowed. "Thank you, Ma." She rushed to her room and began ironing the only decent dress she had. In her heart, she was sure it must be a night shift job, maybe a hotel receptionist, a cleaner, even a night security post. It didn't matter. She was ready. But at 8 p.m., Madam P knocked on her door and entered, holding a shopping bag. "Wear this," she said, tossing it on the bed. Veronica opened the bag. Her heart dropped. Inside was a tiny red dress, barely any fabric, just straps and tight curves. She looked up. "Ma, I don't understand." Madam P's tone changed. "You're going out with a guest. He paid for you. Wear it." Veronica froze. "Paid for me?" "Yes, he likes fresh village girls. Don't act dumb. You're not here to cook and clean. This is Lagos." Veronica's voice trembled. "But I thought you were giving me a real job. You said—" Madam P slammed her wine glass on the table. "This is the guape, and you'll make 10 times your bricklayer pay in one night. Just smile and be sweet." Veronica backed away. "I can't. I'm not a prostitute." "Then get out," Madam P said coldly. "Now, take your bag and go." Veronica stood frozen. Outside at this time? In a strange city? "Out!" Madam P screamed. "You think I'm running a charity? You think I fed you for free? Get out before I call the security." Veronica grabbed her nylon bag, her heart pounding. No shoes, no money, no idea where she was. The gate slammed behind her. She stood on the dark, quiet street, the lights of Lagos suddenly cold and cruel. Just hours ago, she was full of hope. Now she was homeless in a city that didn't care if she lived or died. The gate slammed shut behind her with a loud clang that echoed through the empty street. Veronica stood frozen on the curb outside Madame P's mansion, holding nothing but a worn nylon bag containing her clothes and a cracked old phone with no SIM card. The street was quiet, save for the distant honks of traffic and the buzz of a nearby transformer. She had no idea where she was. Just hours ago, she was watching Netflix on a soft couch in an air-conditioned room eating fried rice. Now, she was barefoot in the cold night of Lagos, confused, scared, and humiliated. The dress she wore barely covered her thighs. Her braids were loose. Her voice trembled. God, what have I done wrong? She thought of her father, sick and waiting. Her mother, believing she was safe. If only they knew their daughter was now stranded with nowhere to go, in a city that didn't know her name. She walked, not knowing where she was heading. One estate security man hissed, "Hey, where you dey go like that? Abi, you be one of those Olosho way they waka at night?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking, hugging herself tightly. The streets of Lagos at night were not friendly, especially to girls like her. Men slowed their cars and rolled down their windows, offering rides. Others shouted suggestive things at her. One man followed her for 3 streets, whispering, "You fine pass all those Instagram girls. Come enter Motormake. I treat you like queen." She ran. Eventually, she found an empty bus stop shelter and curled herself on the bench. But even that didn't last. Around midnight, a group of young area boys arrived, reeking of alcohol. "Wouldn't this one day do here?" one of them slurred. Another laughed. "Maybe she won't join us tonight." Veronica jumped up and ran again. By 2 a.m., she had no choice but to crouch beside a locked kiosk, using her bag as a pillow and her wrapper as a blanket. The ground was cold, and mosquitoes feasted on her legs. Her stomach growled. Her back ached. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she wiped them away angrily. "I won't cry," she whispered to herself. "I'm not weak." But inside, she was broken. By dawn, people began sweeping the streets. Veronica stood up, dusted her wrapper, and washed her face at a leaking pipe by the roadside. A woman selling a cara nearby stared at her suspiciously but said nothing. She had no money. She remembered Madame P's final words, "Get out before I call security." That woman had lured her from the village with promises of a better life, only to try to sell her to a man like a piece of meat. The thought made Veronica tremble with rage. She decided one thing that morning. She would rather starve than sell her body. She began knocking on doors. From one shop to another, she pleaded, "Please, Ma, I'm looking for a cleaning job. Anything. I can wash, I can sweep." Most ignored her. Some men told her to come back. "But make sure you wear a short skirt next time," one added with a wink. Another man, a boutique owner, seemed nice at first. He told her to wait inside, then slowly locked the door and leaned in close. "I can give you 20,000 today. Just spend one night with me." Veronica bolted out of the store before he finished the sentence. By evening, her legs were swollen from walking all day. Her throat burned. Her stomach was empty. She sat under a bridge surrounded by street boys and beggars. Some of them smoked. One girl was breastfeeding a baby. Another was laughing madly to herself. Veronica curled up in a corner, using her wrapper as cover, ignoring the rats that scurried nearby. She whispered to herself through clenched teeth, "I won't die here. I will survive this. I will make Papa proud. I will." That night, despite the fear, the stench, and the loneliness, Veronica made a vow. No matter how long it took, she would rise. But never, never would she sell herself to do it. By the 4th morning of sleeping under the bridge, Veronica stopped hoping that someone would rescue her. Hope, she realized, was a luxury, and she couldn't afford luxuries anymore. Her body had grown leaner. Her cheeks no longer held the softness they once did. Her once glowing dark skin now looked dusty and dry from days under the sun and nights exposed to the wind. But her spirit? Unbroken. That morning, she joined a group of street hawkers gathering near a kiosk close to Ohoda. They carried buckets filled with chilled sachet water, known as pure water. Veronica watched them, girls her age, some even younger, balancing basins on their heads, weaving through Lagos traffic, screaming, "Water for 50 naira! Buy your cold water!" A girl named Chinwe, with quick eyes and a sharp tongue, noticed Veronica standing nearby. "You dey look? You want sell or you want beg?" Chinwe asked. "I want to sell," Veronica replied softly. Chinwei eyed her up and down. You get money to buy water? Veronica shook her head. Chinwei hissed. Then go find another way to survive. But an old woman selling roasted plantain nearby intervened. Give her a bucket. Let her try. If she no return your money, curse her. Chinwei reluctantly gave Veronica a small bowl filled with cold sachets. If you sell finish, bring 800 naira. The rest is yours. You spoil my water, you go see madness. Veronica nodded, lifting the bowl onto her head. The first time she stepped into traffic, her hands trembled. Cars honked. Bus drivers shouted. Conductors cursed. He laughed and walked away, but not before muttering, "Pride go kill you." But Veronica wasn't proud. She was desperate. Desperate to keep what little she had left, her dignity. Some nights, the police would come and chase them away, shouting, "Clear this place! You want to turn bridge to bedroom?" She'd run with her wrapper and bucket, hiding behind kiosks. Other nights, rain would pour suddenly, soaking everything. She'd curl under an abandoned table, hugging her legs for warmth, whispering prayers into the wind. Still, she sold water by day, and she refused to sell herself by night. Some of the other girls mocked her. "You'd form saint. Who's sainthood ep for Lagos?" She didn't respond. But deep down, she clung to her vow like oxygen. One night after a long day of sales, Veronica sat under the bridge, staring at the sky. The stars blinked faintly through the city smog. She whispered into the air, "God, I know you see me. Don't forget me. Please, don't let this be my end." She didn't know it yet, but the very next day, while trying to relieve herself in the bushes behind the highway, her prayer would be answered in the most unexpected way. It was a hot, dusty afternoon. Lagos traffic had backed up for miles, and the sun sat heavily in the sky, burning every inch of exposed skin. Veronica was weaving through the parked cars on the expressway, shouting, "Pure water! Cold water! 50 naira!" Her bucket was half empty, her throat dry, her shoulders sore. She hadn't eaten all day. As the traffic finally began to move, a sudden pressure in her stomach made her stop. She needed to use the toilet, urgently, but there were no public restrooms anywhere nearby. And even if there were, she had no money to pay. She looked around nervously, then remembered the bushy patch of land behind the highway, a forgotten piece of green overgrown with weeds and litter. Clutching her bucket tight, she walked quickly toward it. As she stepped into the shade of the trees, she crouched behind a thick bush and tried to relieve herself quickly. The smell of wet soil and decaying garbage filled the air. But just as she finished and was adjusting her wrapper, she heard it. A voice. Faint, broken, distant. "Help! Please, somebody! Help me!" Veronica froze. She turned her head slowly, heart pounding. The voice came again. "Please don't let me die." Fear and curiosity battled inside her. Carefully, she tiptoed toward the direction of the voice. The bushes rustled under her feet. Her heart thudded louder with each step. And then she saw it. Lying behind a broken pile of old tires was a man in a torn suit, his white shirt soaked in blood. His hands were tied behind his back. His legs were bound. His face was swollen, and a deep gash on his forehead and oozed blood. His lips trembled. His chest rose and fell slowly, struggling. Veronica gasped. She dropped her bucket and ran to him. The man opened his eyes weakly. When he saw her face, he whispered, "Please don't let me die." Then he lost consciousness. Veronica stood there, frozen, her mind spinning. What was this? Who was he? Was this a setup? A trap? But something deep inside her moved. This man was dying. He needed help. Without thinking twice, Veronica bent down and tried to lift him. He was heavy, at least twice her weight. But adrenaline and desperation gave her strength. She dragged him through the grass, inch by inch, until they reached the edge of the road. Taxis sped by without stopping. She stood in the middle of the road, waving frantically. "Please, help me, please." Most drivers honked and swerved. Some stared but kept moving. Then finally, a dusty old cab screeched to a stop. "No weddin' be this?" the driver shouted. "Please, sir, I need help. He's dying. Take us to the nearest hospital." "Please." The driver looked at the unconscious man and sighed. "Hope you go pay me, oh." "I'll pay, I swear, just go." Veronica helped the driver lift the man into the back seat. She sat beside him, holding his hand, praying silently. "Don't die, sir. Please don't die." At the hospital gate, the taxi man demanded 1,500 naira. Veronica opened her bag. She only had 1,100 naira. Her entire day's earnings. Please, sir, this is all I have. The driver eyed her, then hissed and drove off. Inside the emergency ward, the nurses barely looked up. Is he your relative? One asked. No, but he's dumb. Where is his deposit? I don't have any money left, but he needs help, please. The nurse shook her head. No deposit, no treatment. Veronica's voice cracked. Please, please don't let him die. He was left to die in the bush. He has nobody. She dropped to her knees. After minutes of pleading, the doctor finally appeared. He checked the man's pulse and shouted, we need to stabilize him now. But, sir, the nurse said, we need blood. His type is O+, and our bank is empty. I'll give him mine, Veronica said without thinking. They stared at her. You sure? Yes, take it. Within minutes, the needle was in her arm. Blood drained from her already weak body into a bag. She was dizzy, lightheaded, but she didn't care. This man, this stranger, needed to live. God, she whispered, if this is my purpose, I accept it. An hour later, as she sat on a bench in the hallway, her vision blurred. Her head tilted, and she collapsed. Her body hit the floor with a soft thud. The nurse rushed over. The girl who brought him in just fainted. Give her glucose. She hasn't eaten in days, the doctor shouted. And inside the ER, the man began to stir. Veronica's body collapsed like a fallen tree. One moment she was sitting weakly on a bench outside the emergency ward, watching the world blur into spinning lights and white walls. The next, her vision turned black. Madam, madam, nurse, a passerby shouted as her limp form hit the cold hospital floor. A nurse dashed over, kneeling beside her. She's burning up. No blood pressure. Pulse is weak. She donated blood just now, a doctor shouted from the ER. Give her IV immediately. The nurses lifted Veronica gently and laid her on a gurney, wheeling her into a separate ward. They inserted a drip into her fragile vein. Her skin was cold, her lips dry, her heartbeat faint. Who is she? One nurse asked. She brought the man who was tied up in the bush, the other replied. She paid the taxi. She begged us to treat him. And now she's here, collapsing like this? No family, no ID, no phone, nothing. Yet she gave blood to save a stranger. Who does that in Lagos? Meanwhile, in the emergency theater, the man she had rescued, the one she had dragged through the bush, paid for with her last 100 naira, and given her blood to, finally opened his eyes. The ECG beeped steadily. His eyes blinked slowly, adjusting to the harsh lights above. His throat felt like sandpaper. He tried to speak, but it came out a rasp. What? Water? A nurse leaned in. You're in the hospital, sir. You're safe. The man looked around, confused. What happened? You were found tied and bleeding in the bush. You've been unconscious for nearly 4 hours. A girl brought you here. She saved your life. The man blinked. A girl? She's in the next ward now. She collapsed after donating blood for your transfusion. The man struggled to sit up. Take me to her. Sir, you just regained... I said take me to her, he growled. His voice was weak, but his tone carried the weight of power. Authority. The nurse paused, sensing that this man wasn't just anybody. With shaky legs, he stepped down from the bed, still in his torn, blood-stained clothes. The drip in his hand swayed as he walked slowly to the next ward, guided by the nurse. The door creaked open. There she was, Veronica, lying on the hospital bed, face pale, arms strapped to an IV. Her wrapper was still dirty from the bush. Her body looked fragile, like she might disappear into the sheets at any moment. The man stood in the doorway for a long, breathless moment. He stepped forward, slowly, painfully, until he was beside her. And then, he whispered, "You saved me." His voice cracked. Veronica stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked confused at first, then saw him. "You're awake," she mumbled. "I am," he said, lowering himself beside her bed. "Because of you." She tried to sit up, but he stopped her gently. "Don't move. You're weak." I thought you were going to die." He looked away for a moment. "I nearly did. But you dragged me out of the bush, called a taxi, paid with your last money, begged these doctors to help me, and gave me your own blood. Veronica looked down. I couldn't leave you there. I just couldn't. Why? He asked softly. Tears filled her eyes. Because even if nobody sees me, I still have a heart. That single sentence hit him like thunder. He sat beside her, stunned. This girl, skinny, homeless, barefoot, nameless, had shown more humanity than anyone in his world had in years. I promise you, he said, his voice filled with trembling conviction, your life will never be the same again. At that moment, a man in a black suit burst into the hospital room, panting. Sir, thank God we found you, sir. Everyone's been searching. The man held up a hand. Later, Isaac, later. The suited man nodded and stood by the door, staring at Veronica with a confused expression. The man turned back to Veronica. What's your name? She hesitated. Veronica, from Enugu. He extended his hand. Veronica, I am Chief Madhu, chairman of Madhu Group, and from this moment, I owe you my life. Veronica stared at the man seated beside her hospital bed, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Chief Madhu? The name wasn't unfamiliar. Even on the streets, she had heard whispers of him, the tech mogul who built Madhu Group from scratch, one of the richest men in Nigeria, a private man, a mystery to the media, a giant in the business world. And now that man was seated beside her, wearing torn clothes, wounds still fresh, his eyes filled with something she didn't expect from a billionaire. Gratitude. You don't know what you've done for me, he said, his voice husky but steady. Veronica looked down at her fingers, her voice barely above a whisper. I only did what I hoped someone would do for my father, if he was ever in that condition. Chief Madhu nodded slowly. He turned to his assistant, Isaac, still standing at the doorway. Settle the bills. Everything. Yes, sir. Isaac rushed out. The nurses had already begun whispering behind the curtains. That's Chief Madhu? The real one? She saved him? That girl? Omo God de pick calzo. Chief Madhu looked at her again. You still look weak. You need food. Real food. Veronica smiled faintly. I'll be fine. No, you won't just be fine, Veronica. You gave me your blood. The least I can give you is a new life. She blinked, stunned by the weight of his words. Was this still real? Or a strange, beautiful dream crafted by hunger and exhaustion? By evening, Isaac returned with a nurse pushing a tray, fresh fruit juice, jollof rice, fried plantain, grilled fish, and warm water. Veronica stared at it like she was staring at gold. Chief Madhu smiled. Eat, please. She didn't hesitate. With every bite, the hunger melted from her bones, and for the first time in weeks, she felt human again. As the IV drip emptied into her vein, she finally relaxed against the bed, but her heart still carried questions. How did you end up like that, sir? She asked quietly. Chief Madhu took a deep breath. I was kidnapped. Veronica gasped. He continued. It was a planned operation. My car was intercepted. My driver, gone. I was blindfolded and taken to an unknown location. They beat me for days, demanded 50 million naira. Did you pay? He nodded. Isaac handled it. They got the money, but after receiving it, they decided to kill me anyway. Said I was a risk. They drugged me, tied me, and dumped me in the bush to die. Veronica's eyes widened. They left you like that? They thought I wouldn't survive. And honestly, I didn't think I would either until you showed up. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, You were meant to live, sir. God still has work for you to do. He looked at her carefully. And maybe you are part of that work. She shifted in her bed, unsure how to respond. Moments later, a team of private security men arrived. Chief Madhu stepped outside to speak with them. Isaac stayed with Veronica. The young man looked at her curiously. Do you know who you really saved? Veronica smiled weakly. I'm beginning to understand. Isaac lowered his voice. Chief Madhu is not just rich. He's powerful, connected. People die to get close to him. And you dragged him out of a bush with your bare hands. Veronica looked away. I didn't do it for money. I did it because it was right. Isaac nodded slowly, and that's why it matters. Soon Chief Madhu returned, now changed into clean clothes brought by his team. Still simple, but sharp. He looked like the man from the headlines again. He turned to Veronica. Get ready. Tomorrow we leave the hospital. You're coming with me. Veronica's eyes widened. Sir, I can't. I don't even know what to. Shh. He held up a hand. Just say yes. She looked at him, speechless, tears welling in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. That night, as she lay in the hospital bed, she couldn't sleep. Not because she was scared, but because, for the first time in a long time, she was no longer afraid of tomorrow. The next morning, Veronica was discharged. She wore a simple floral gown Isaac had bought from a boutique the night before, along with brand new slippers. Her hair, still rough and uncombed, was tied into a bun. She looked like a girl still catching up with herself. But there was now a new light in her eyes, a quiet flame of hope. Chief Madhu was waiting at the hospital entrance with his personal security team and a sleek black Range Rover. When Veronica stepped out, he opened the car door himself. Let's go home, he said. Home? She didn't understand what he meant until they arrived. The car pulled up to a sprawling white mansion in Ikoyi, surrounded by high marble walls, security cameras, and a polished iron gate that opened automatically. A lush garden spread out like a royal court, with trimmed hedges and golden fountains. Veronica sat frozen as she stepped out of the car, clutching her small nylon bag that still held her only 2 old wrappers. She couldn't believe her eyes. The house looked like a palace. A maid dressed in uniform opened the glass door and bowed slightly. Welcome, sir. Welcome, madam. Madam, Veronica's heart skipped. Inside, it was even more surreal. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The floors were imported Italian tiles that reflected her bare feet. Paintings lined the walls, and soft music played in the background. This is your house? She asked in disbelief. Yes, Chief Madhu said with a small smile. And it's your home now, too. Veronica turned sharply. No, sir, I can't live here. I'm not. You saved my life. That is not a debt I can repay with mere words. But, no but, you will rest here. You will be safe. You will eat and sleep in peace. It's the least you deserve. Her eyes burned. She had never been in a house with a working ceiling fan, let alone one with air conditioning and imported art. A maid guided her upstairs into a guest room. The room was larger than her entire family's house. A king-size bed with white silk sheets. A bathroom with a hot shower and rose-scented soap. A vanity with lotions she didn't even know how to pronounce. Veronica stood in the center, frozen, unsure if she was supposed to sit or stand. Ma, the maid said gently, you can bathe. I'll bring food. She nodded. Inside the bathroom, she stared at her reflection. Her face looked thin, her eyes tired, but she smiled. For the first time in forever, she smiled. Genuinely. Fully. After showering, she was given a comfortable gown and called downstairs to the dining room. 3-course meal, chicken and creamy sauce, basmati rice, fresh orange juice, clean utensils. Veronica ate slowly, unsure which fork to use, but no one laughed. No one judged. Later that afternoon, Chief Madhu invited her to the garden. The air was peaceful. Birds chirped from fruit trees. A marble table sat in the center with 2 chairs. Veronica took her seat carefully. Chief Madhu sat opposite her. His tone was softer now, fatherly. Tell me about yourself. Veronica hesitated. There's not much to tell. Try me. She opened up, slowly at first. She spoke of her father, a retired teacher, now bedridden and ill, her mother who worked like a donkey to feed them, the job she took as a bricklayer to keep them alive, and finally the Madam P. She said she'd give me a job. She lied. When I refused to sleep with the man she brought, she threw me out. Chief Madhu's eyes darkened. That woman, she will pay for what she did to you. I don't care about her anymore. I just want to help my parents. My father's health is failing. We couldn't even afford blood tests, let alone treatment. Chief Madhu was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. What if I told you I could fly your father abroad for treatment? Veronica's head shot up. Sir, I'll arrange everything. Full medical support, private hospital, flight, your mother too if necessary. She covered her mouth. The tears came fast. But why? Why are you doing all this for me? She asked. He looked her straight in the eyes. Because you gave me something no one else did, humanity, when I had nothing, not even a name. You saved me. He stood and walked toward the entrance. Oh, and one more thing. He returned with a small black suitcase and set it gently in front of her. She opened it. $200,000 in cash. Veronica gasped, her chest tightening. She backed away, trembling. I can't accept this. You can, and you will. Use it to build a future, not just for yourself, for your family, for every girl who thinks dignity can't survive poverty. Veronica collapsed into the chair, shaking. She had no words, just tears. The kind of tears that come when pain finally meets peace. The sun filtered softly through the mango trees in Chief Madhu's garden that afternoon, casting a warm golden glow on the marble tiles and flowers in full bloom. Birds sang into the background, but Veronica wasn't paying attention to any of that. She sat on one side of the white garden table, the open briefcase of dollars still resting in front of her like a dream she couldn't wake up from. Tears streamed down her face, not from pain, but from overwhelming gratitude. Across from her, Chief Madhu watched silently. He didn't interrupt. He knew the weight of that moment. He had once cried like that himself long ago, when someone gave him his first chance. Veronica finally looked up. Sir, you don't know what this means to me. Chief Madhu leaned back in his chair. I may not, but I know what you mean to me. You saved my life when you had no reason to, and you didn't ask for anything. Veronica shook her head. I just didn't want you to die. I didn't even know you were rich. He smiled. Exactly. Chief Madhu continued, tomorrow morning my jet will be ready. Your parents will be flown to India for full medical treatment. You'll go with them. I've already made arrangements. Veronica covered her mouth again, shaking her head in disbelief. Your father deserves a chance to live, and your mother deserves rest. You gave me a second chance at life, Veronica. Now I'm giving you one. She stood slowly, then walked around the table and fell to her knees before him. Chief Madhu gently lifted her up. No, you don't kneel to me. You stand tall, because after all you've survived, you are stronger than most people I know. She looked into his eyes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. But before she could finish, he placed something else on the table. A house document. 3-bedroom bungalow, yours. Title in your name. You'll never be homeless again. Veronica froze. Sir, this is too much. Not for someone who gave blood on an empty stomach. For a man she didn't even know. There was a pause. A long, peaceful pause. Veronica stepped back and looked up at the sky. She could see the clouds shifting slowly. Just days ago, she was hawking water, dodging area boys, sleeping under a bridge. Now, she stood in a billionaire's mansion garden, holding the keys to a new life. She whispered softly to herself, Papa, you'll finally get the help you need. Tears came again, but they weren't bitter this time. They were full of joy, full of healing, full of God. Chief Madhu looked at her with the quiet pride of a father. This is not charity, Veronica. This is harvest. You sowed kindness, and now you're reaping destiny. As the garden breeze rustled the leaves, Veronica took one deep breath, then whispered, Thank you, God, for this miracle. And with that, her story, once built on hardship, betrayal, and suffering, turned the final page into something far greater. Redemption, moral of the story. Kindness and integrity never go unnoticed. Even when the world turns its back, staying true to your values will lead you to destiny. Veronica's story proves that dignity in the face of hardship is powerful, and one act of compassion can open doors that even money cannot. We hope you enjoyed this powerful story. Please